Hey everybody, welcome to our coloring of Rainbow Dash. We're going to be using B16, B14, B12, B00, and BV000. And that BV000 is going to be for the shadow in the body. So right now I'm going to start off with my B16 and I'm going to color all the parts that I want shaded and where I want that depth to be first. So that is everywhere through the head, the ear, in the wings, around the hind end, the legs, and the hoof areas. So if you can see in the image, when I'm coloring, so what I did was I actually stamped out this image of Rainbow Dash in a blue ink. I didn't want to go with a traditional, just standard black. Then I used my Memento dual marker, and I used that to go in and ink up the eye and the cutie mark and the hooves first so that they would still be black. So once I've got everything in with my B16, I go ahead and I'm going to start to move into my B14. So my B14 goes over my B16 and then slightly extends out a little further and then continues on some of the lines further as well. So when coloring bigger spaces, I find the biggest challenge is just making sure you blend your dark to light colors really, really well. And you don't want to see your marker strokes. So from our B14, all I do is I move to that B12 and I start to add in more of that lighter color and I bring that around in the face, and I'm still making sure that I leave white space for my B00 and the end. And as you can see, this video is sped up just so you can kind of see the coloring of it, what colors I use, but you don't have to have a long video to watch. I didn't want to put you through that for this one. But of course, with our YouTube videos, of course, you can slow them down. So my voice might be slowed down a little bit. But the markers would still show up on the screen and you can follow along more closely into how I've colored this image. So finally here is that B00 and I'm putting that around the eye, into the ear, and blending that around the eye and into the muzzle, as well as down the neck and into the legs and everywhere where I want to blend. And what I am going to do is I'm really going to use this B00 and I'm going to kind of go over everything. Now I'm going to really start to soften where I put in that B16 and that B14 with that B00. So this is I'm going to say one of the most important steps to get everything to blend properly is you really, really want to use that lighter marker, and in this case that B00, to really get those colors blended in nicely. If you don't spend your time blending, you will find your image comes out a little bit more, I'm going to call it streaky, because of the marks left behind with your Copic. This just really, really helps to make sure that those lines blend in, and you'll be able to see it here underneath the wing and near that cutie mark, where it first looks very kind of stark and detached in the color, but over time it starts to blend in really well. Now, when I do this, I do actually go over the little cloud with this B002, just because in the end, I'm going to add a white Posca pen into that area where the clouds are. So again, I'm just spending my time on the blending, and I've mentioned several times, we really need to make sure it blends properly. Now with our BV000, this is where I'm just adding just a hint of shadow, and it's just that slightest color variation to give a little bit of depth that still works. So in the mane tail, we're using our reds first, and the reds I'm using are R27 and R24. And I'm starting with that R27 first, and I'm putting at the bottom section of that main section where it's kind of drawn out for us, and at the tail closest to the body, and then the lighter spot is going up top, and I'm just blending through. So the next section is the orange, which is YR07 and YR04. So the YR07 again, that is going to go at the darker part at the bottom and closest onto the inside of the tail there. And I'm just making sure it curves right around that red. Then I'm going to go in with my YR04, and that's going to be that lighter color on top, and I'm just going to blend it through. Once it's blended through, we're going to go ahead and I add just a little bit back into that red to get everything to flow. Our next color is our yellow, Y08, Y06, and Y02. So I'm starting in with the Y02 first, towards the bottom there. And then I go in with my darker color, which is that Y08. And I'm putting that on the outside line. And then I'm going in the middle with my Y06. And then that goes in to blend the middle. And then I'm also going to touch it up into the orange as well and a little into the red again, just to create sort of a blend between the three of them. So our green part is G05 and G03. Again, putting that closer to the face here, closer to the cheek. And then closer to that yellow as well, so that whereas the darker green is going to go. And then I'm going to just go ahead and fill it in with G03. So once you've got it all nice and blended there, you can move on to your next color, which is the blue, which is B26 and B24. Again, darker part, I start at the closer to the face or the eye. I put the top line there, and then when I put it in the tail, again, closer to the green, and then we move to our lighter color, which is that the B24 is going to fill that in. I really enjoyed coloring this image because it was so different than our regular chibis, but it's just so cute, and I won't lie, I loved the My Little Ponies as a kid, and I still do. They're pretty cute and awesome. So from our blue, we're going to our purple, and our purple is going to be a mix of BV08 and BV13. And again, starting with that darker color, the BV08 closer to the blue, and same with by the tail, we're putting that darker BV08 closest to the blue. And then we're going to go back in with our BV13 to create that final blend. And just really soften everything up. And again, it is all about the blending and just taking your time. So the cutie mark is going to be R27, Y06. So we put those in first, and our B24, and they're just tiny little spots. And then the eye, I used B21 just outside that pupil. So that was super easy to color in there. And then we're going to add our highlights with our white Posca pen, or if you have a white gel pen. So when I did this here, it kind of splotched a little bit. So I ended up taking a little paper towel and kind of dabbing that white off in the eye and then fixing it. So what I'm doing here is I am laying down my highlight with my Posca pen, but then I'm wiping it with my finger so it softens it right away. So you're able to use a white highlight that's not as dramatic as where you put it in the eye. So I find this is a really cool technique where you just get to soften that, and you can do that with the Posca pen. So here is our completed Rainbow Dash. Thanks for watching.